everything that this woman has done for me, there's no way I could pay her back.
That's really the conviction, I think, that spurred Dennis Rainey to write this book, The Forgotten Commandment. He starts the book off as he was leaving for college, driving away in a car, and mom and dad in the rearview mirror. And he realized he'd never thanked them. Well, welcome to the Faithful Fathering Podcast. This is Rick, and this podcast series is entitled Mother's Day Month. Now, as you know, Mother's Day is the second Sunday in May. Pretty important date. But many churches have Mother's Day off events where dads take the kids and give mom a day off the Saturday before Mother's Day. Maybe they even give mom a gift card to her favorite store or to a salon and just let mom have a relaxing day. And then many churches, again, on Sunday, offer moms flowers at every service to welcome them in and celebrate motherhood in the church. I know one church that's even going to the extreme for dads to take over the children's ministry and nursery responsibilities. Now that's some commitment to honor mothers, and that's pretty cool. As you know, moms deserve any accolades and any pampering they can get. If you were in the delivery room when your children were born, you know that's certainly the case. Now, Mother's Day is really a Hallmark card day, and I'm starting a movement to say, let's call it Mother's Day Month. I want to say that for two reasons. One is obviously moms deserve more than a day of pampering. But secondly, next month is Father's Day month. So as we invest in this month, maybe we'll fare a little bit better on Father's Day month as well. So to chew that over and discuss it a bit in the studio today is my dear friend, Robert Vallée. Robert, good to see you.
Good to be here, Rick. You know what? Why not make it Mother's Day year? You know, we're called to love our brides as Christ loves the church. And I think we can do it year round, man. Yeah.
Well, there's good idea. That's a good idea. Whatever your pocketbook can stand.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Well, but there is a command, that we're to honor our parents. But we sometimes overlook that command because when Jesus is asked by the Pharisees that he says, what is the greatest command? He says, well, it's to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul. And then he says the second is like it. To love your neighbor as yourself. So I went through a good bit of my Christian walk, not even familiar with the middle commandment and taking it for granted possibly. But the middle command is to honor your father and your mother. And it's the only commandment with a promise to say, this is your life will be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. So it's the command with a promise. So, but the question is, did Jesus just default and not even recognize that commandment, or what else is going on there? And my contention, and you can argue whether it's right or wrong, but I think Jesus walked that commandment.
Oh, yeah.
He walked everything he did. He honored, he pointed to, glorified his Father in virtually every miracle he performed, every illness he cured, every sick person he healed. So my contention there is that he just kind of assumed that you were supposed to catch that. Not that Jesus can convict us in a lot of different ways, but I think he assumed, particularly in that time, that parents were honored. They were
right. That was the norm.
That was the norm.
You didn't do anything other than that.
Yeah, you did what your father told you. You were handed over to your bride. Your marriages were arranged in a lot of situations. So the parents had a lot of stroke and a lot of power, and it was just automatically assumed that they might be honored. But that wasn't the case for me. I didn't catch on to that until quite a bit later in life. But I just, had you ever thought about that about that middle command not even being mentioned much in the New Testament?
No, and I think I'm like you, Rick. Didn't pay much attention to it. And as we progress in our walk, as we mature in our walk, and just mature, generally speaking, mature, we learn things, and God opens our eyes to certain things. And I was joking with you earlier about, I was leading one of your fathering studies, and I joked with Rick, and I said, Rick, is it the plan for when men are leading these studies that they get convicted the worst? Because this thing, really got me to think about how I'm prioritizing things, and even now as we're talking about this, now I want to look into that middle commandment, and see how can I better honor my mother, my father, and my wife. Mm-hmm. So no, to answer your question, I had not given it much thought.
Well, in Exodus 20:12, he gives the 10 commandments, and then the first several commandments have all to do with loving the Lord your God, and then there will be no idols, no worshiping of idols, no worshiping of other gods. There will be no using of his name in vain, and we're to respect the Sabbath. Those were the early commands, and then and when Jesus summed those up into love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, he was really providing a summary of your relationship with the Father in the spiritual realm. Right. And then the second piece, when he comes in and says, love your neighbor as yourself, then he's talking about, you don't steal, you don't murder, you don't commit adultery, you don't lie, you don't covet. These are in the physical realm, and this is how we relate to others. So he was that middle command really bridges the spiritual to the physical. And of course, that's what Jesus came and did as well. He bridged a relationship with our Heavenly Father, to the relationships that we're going to have here in this world. So that bridge is what the family is designed to be. The family is the bridge that conveys the family values, their faith, and their priorities to the next generation. So you're passing it from generation to generation to generation as a function of mom and dad's role in the family. And that's only passed through the process of honoring your mother and your father. And so that's a conviction. That was a conviction to me, and I'm blessed, and I'll share in other segments here, but the fact that I was blessed to be able to honor both and reconcile my relationship with the dad that raised me, and honor my mother as in her life. Now, that's what I think is so critical about this command, and the idea of honoring you in today's world, you think, well, they're not honorable,
right? They need to earn it.
The command doesn't say anything about being honorable. The command is to honor,
right?
And that's like a command to love. It doesn't say that somebody has to be lovable. You are to love. And so those are the things that we're convicted of when we really read Scripture. It is an absolute truth, and it is an absolute command. And so that's, and by the way, it is actually in the New Testament. In Ephesians 6, I think it's Ephesians 6, 2 or 3 and 4, Paul reiterates and says, right after he says, fathers, don't exasperate your children, but bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. And then it says, children shall honor their parents. And that's where Paul brings it back around into the New Testament. So those are the things that, I call this the forgotten commandment, and those aren't my words. I like to reference Dennis Rainey's book by that title. It's called The Forgotten Commandment, and the subtitle is Experiencing the Power of Honoring Your Parents. And he just goes in and you can share some story, but possibly from your perspective. But I look back and I took so much for granted.
As a dad of a teenager, you realize how dumb I was. But I thought I knew it all.
You had all the answers to the one question you knew.
I had all the answers. And in hindsight, it's easy to forget the things that my parents did for me.
Mm-hmm.
And leading your studies has helped me really look at, and I think you're going to go into this, but the part about where you talk about your dad
mm-hmm.
and asking for forgiveness, and I won't ruin the story.
That'll be next month. That's Father's Day month.
That's Father's Day month. Okay, well y'all tune in and stay tuned, because that's a great story. I've heard it a couple of times, and it's just. It speaks to the reality of what honoring your parents is about. But we just, as we're young, we think we know it all. We think we've got all the answers. It's not until we mature. I tell my son all the time, I said, son, your brain is not fully developed. It makes total sense right now, but that's not a fully developed brain. The male brain, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't fully develop until you're in your early 20s, I believe.
Yeah, some of it's our 30s or 40s.
Some of us
25 is about the range.
Is it 25?
Right.
Yeah. So it may make sense to us then at that age, but then once we mature, once we get older, we start to realize, man, my mom did a lot for me,
mm-hmm.
and my situation is strange because. As an adult, my mom and I kind of bumped heads over some boundaries that we needed to establish. And I in no way meant to show dishonor, but it could have been perceived that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I have to go back and remember, like, man, I love that woman.
Mm-hmm.
I love my mother. I love everything that she did for me. She would give a shirt off her back for me. But it sometimes it's not until you're out of a certain season that you look in hindsight and you can see everything for what it is and really remember, man, everything that this woman has done for me, there's no way I could pay her back.
That's really the conviction, I think, that spurred Dennis Rainey to write this book, The Forgotten Commandment. He starts the book off as he was leaving for college, driving away in a car, and mom and dad in the rearview mirror, and he realized he'd never thanked them. So, those are the things that kind of come around that you realize, as you know, as a parent, we're going to do anything for our kids, right? We bend over backwards, and sometimes we spoil them a little bit. Sometimes we're a little bit hard on them. But the challenge is to realize from their perspective, this is the norm.
Right.
Even in our home, the kids might thought I've raised my voice, and I thought, from my home's perspective, you don't know what a raised voice is, and
this is peaceful.
and my bride would always say, but they don't have that perspective.
They don't know that.
They don't have that perspective. So, and I think that's part of the journey in growing up, that it isn't until they'll leave the homes a lot of times that they realize they start to get a perspective for how much mom and dad, invested in them. I mean, it's not a burden. I mean, as parents, we don't see it as a burden. We're just investing in a young life, and young life we were blessed to raise. So, but from their perspective, everything is normal and they just expect it to be the case. That case may be, providing a car. It might be providing a bicycle. It might be providing a job. It might be providing a college education. There's lots of different things that mom and dad may or may not be able to do. But from a child's perspective, it's just a given.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
As we wrap up this segment, I want to encourage you to go get that book, Dennis Rainey's The Forgotten Commandment. It's a great book, great read, and give you some specific encouragement on how to honor your mother specifically, as we're dealing with that across this Mother's Day month, and honoring your father. And that will give you some great guidance.
Dads, we encourage you to interact in the comments. Ask questions. Let us know your thoughts on the topic. What have your parents done? What has your mother done? How have you honored your parents? Let us know in the comments. Ask questions and share this with a dad that you think could benefit from listening to what we're talking about.
Thank you for tuning in to the Faithful Fathering Podcast. God bless. Godspeed.